Today, we're talking about a mind that's just on another level. The story of Srinivasa Ramanujan. And trust me, this isn't just about math. It's about a guy who, from basically nowhere, saw the fundamental truths of the universe in a way that nobody else could. He completely changed the game.
So let's just jump right into the deep end with something that'll kind of break your brain. What happens if you add up all the positive numbers? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and just keep going forever. Logically, the answer should be infinity, right? Well, Ramanujan said, nope, it's negative 1/12. How is that even possible? It's not a mistake. He was using a wild technique we now call Ramanujan summation. And believe it or not, this bizarre idea actually shows up in real-world stuff like quantum physics.
And you know what? He knew his ideas were out there. When he wrote to the famous British mathematician G.H. Hardy, he pretty much said, yeah, the local math guys here think my work is startling. And that has to be one of the biggest understatements in history. So who was this guy who could just casually tame infinity?
To really get it, you have to know where he came from. Because this wasn't some Cambridge-educated professor. This was a mind that just exploded into existence all on its own, with nothing but raw curiosity and, frankly, a genius-level intuition.
This is Kumbhakonam, a vibrant temple town in southern India. This is where Ramanujan grew up. It was a world that was a million miles away from the academic hubs of Europe. For him, math and spirituality were totally intertwined. He famously said, "An equation for me has no meaning unless it expresses a thought of God." And this was his home. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, right? Inside these simple walls, he was scribbling down ideas that, decades later, would become crucial for understanding things like black holes and string theory. The contrast is just, wow. And this was his entire world. In this very room, with zero formal training past high school, he basically rediscovered 100 years of European mathematics, all by himself. He figured out Bernoulli numbers. He calculated Euler's constant to 15 decimal places. He was literally speedrunning the history of mathematics on his own. So how on earth did he do it? His only guide was this one book. And it wasn't even a textbook. It didn't explain how things worked. It was just a dense list of over 5,000 formulas. For most people, that'd be a doorstop. For Ramanujan, it was a book of clues, a launch pad for his own imagination. The guy just saw things differently. He had this intuition that felt like magic. Okay, get a load of this problem he once published. It's an infinite nested root. It looks like an absolute nightmare, right? Just a chaotic spiral of numbers that goes on forever. What could the answer to that mess possibly be? 3. The answer is just 3. That's it. So clean, so simple. And that's the essence of Ramanujan's work, finding these incredibly beautiful simple truths hiding inside what looks like pure chaos. But having all the answers is useless if there's no one to share them with. Uncovering these secrets in total isolation wasn't going to cut it. He knew his work mattered, but to the rest of the world, he was just some guy, a clerk with no degree. He needed help. So he took a shot in the dark and wrote a letter across the ocean to the very heart of the mathematical establishment, Cambridge. Now, his path was anything but smooth. I mean, talk about a rough go. He failed his college exams twice because he literally didn't care about any subject that wasn't math. He was married, working a low-level clerk job just to make ends meet. He kept sending his incredible theorems to British mathematicians, and they just ignored him. They thought he was a crackpot. Until one letter landed on the right desk. And that desk belonged to G.H. Hardy. You couldn't have picked two more different people. On the one hand, you've got Hardy, the Cambridge professor, a man who lived and breathed logic and rigorous formal proof. And on the other, Ramanujan, the self-taught mystic from India. It was a total collision of worlds. Hardy was just floored. He looked at the formulas in Ramanujan's letter. Some of them he recognized. Others, he said, defeated me completely. He knew right away that this had to be the work of a genius. But his curiosity came with a catch. Hardy wrote back, asking for the one thing Ramanujan had never cared about: proof. That invitation brought Ramanujan all the way to England, kicking off one of the most amazing partnerships in the entire history of science. It was this incredible mashup of pure, gut-feeling intuition and cold, hard, logical formalism. His time in Cambridge was like a supernova, incredibly bright, but way too short. He published dozens of papers, got elected as a Fellow of the Royal Society, a huge honor. But the cold, damp English weather and his diet just wrecked his health. He got sick, had to return to India, and he passed away at only 32 years old. But even when he was sick, his mind was just firing on all cylinders. There's this famous story from when Hardy went to visit him in the hospital. Hardy, trying to make small talk, mentions that his taxi number was 1729 and says, it's a rather dull number. Without even pausing, Ramanujan, lying there in his sickbed, replies, "No, Hardy, it is a very interesting number. It is the smallest number that can be expressed as the sum of two cubes in two different ways." He just knew that. To him, numbers weren't just symbols. They were like old friends, each with its own story. And his work was so much more than just these cool number tricks. He made huge leaps in something called partitions, which is just a fancy word for all the different ways you can add up to a number. So like the number 4 can be written as 4 or 3 plus 1 or 2 plus 2, 5 different ways. He found these absolutely stunning, hidden patterns in partitions that nobody had ever dreamed of. He was gone way too soon, but his influence, oh man, it's immeasurable. He left behind these notebooks filled with thousands of theorems that mathematicians are still trying to prove a century later. His story is it's legendary. And his legacy is so alive today. In India, his birthday is literally National Mathematics Day. All across the country, schools hold events and competitions to honor him, and more importantly, to get a new generation excited about numbers. And that's really the whole point, isn't it? As one school put it, the goal is to create a passion for mathematics. It's about showing kids that math isn't just a boring subject in school. It's this whole beautiful universe of wonder that a guy with nothing but a library book and a dream was able to unlock for all of us. And that kind of leaves you with this one big thought. Ramanujan's story is a miracle, but it was also a near miss. His genius was almost completely lost just because the world wasn't ready to listen. It really makes you wonder, how many other Ramanujans are out there right now with their own startling ideas, just hoping one person will take a chance and read their letter?